This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans, so meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Fully Managed Podcast. Christopher, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to have you on today.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So, today we're going to start out with a game. I hope that this will be a fun way of still being a marketer, but being a fun marketer, I guess. Something that will be maybe get you out of your head in what you normally do, and something that you may enjoy and might be a flash from the past, so to speak, for some of these things.
Let's do it.
Are you ready? Alrighty. This is called brand redemption. So I'm going to give you an example of a brand that notably failed, so to speak. Maybe they're still around, but they're not doing that well, or we're not really thinking about them that much. Okay. And I want you to develop a plan of what you do differently for them, or maybe how you bring them back, whatever you prefer. And it doesn't have to be too long, just like as short as you can make it, short and sweet. Sound good? Okay. The first one is RadioShack.
Wow.
I totally forgot about RadioShack.
That is great. All right. So since I know these are short games, I'm going to give my best right out of the gate. I think RadioShack during its time was great. At least I'm a 90s baby, so I was in there for cables, number one. And I think number two was batteries. So if I had to rethink the whole idea, when you go into Home Depot, if you've ever, and again, this is like an unfamiliar thing for most because I suck at any contract work. But if you go into Home Depot and you put like a screw in a hole, it'll tell you like this is a 6 or a 4 or whatever the size is.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
There you go. So genius,
that's
right?
Awesome.
So here's where I'm going to go with this on an instant like idea. My dad has called me on so many occasions about what in the heck is the cable that I need for the iPhone 14. So mentally, I'm like, all right, bring back RadioShack. Have like you can come in and like they have like the Best Buy, Geek Squad, but they have like a thing where you can analyze like which cable you had. So if you bring in your cable, they'll tell you what kind of cable you had and like figure out, how to charge your phone with the proper cables and the proper batteries. Because right now, everything that you buy on Amazon, I don't know if you've done it, but you can buy like a free pack of like lightning cables, and I lose and have half of them break or they bend in half, probably because they're just crappy materials. So if you had RadioShack with the right materials and like people could come in and get the proper charging cable and know what to buy, it might come back.
I would truly appreciate a system in which I could go somewhere and figure out what cable I need rather than talking to someone. I love if I could just insert a cable in somewhere and it would tell me what it is. Great.
Exactly.
I don't know the difference of the new iPhone cables.
Yep.
I don't know.
No, but that's the like I'm looking at my cables. I'm thinking the idea would literally be like you have a dock that just has all these cables, and it's like USB-C, USB 3. And then you just plug in and it's like, oh, so you don't have to ask someone. Like you just walk in, plug in, and then go find your cable or go to the wall and it's like, this is lightning area. Boom, grab your cable.
No, that would be genius. It would be especially helpful for older people too. I mean, like granted, I am Gen Z and I still don't know the names of my cables. So I don't think it really matters.
Well, now with these years, they're changing so fast. They're like Gen 3 Type 2 USB. What's the difference? It just charges.
Yeah, it's just, why are we changing I hope that this is the last cable. Like, the newest cable for iPhones is the last one. I think that they got sued or something for that. I'm pretty sure.
Yep, that was the Europe. Yeah, Europe sued them, I think, for the cables. But if you think about it, like today, everything has a different cable. Like your mouse, your keyboard, your Meta Quest, this, and then you're like trying to figure out what it is. And you order on Amazon, you get 3 cables, and they're all 3 the wrong one. You're like,
yeah. And if you keep something around for long enough, it's going to be not the same cable as something else, like the Apple Mac chargers that are magnetic.
Yep, I have that right now. Yep.
Yeah, I still have one of those. They don't make them anymore, as far as I'm aware.
Well, fun fact, I'll leave the last statement on that one, but I actually just bought the Mac charger for my laptop because the cable was going bad, like the cable was fraying. So I
Yeah.
went on apple.com. It was $99.99 to order the one from Apple. And I'm like, okay, like I have to get this. It seems like the right thing for my computer because I'm scared
It
of what I
was
told you. Buying Amazon, right?
$99 for a cable?
$99.99 for no. Well, here's the best part. They sent me the block, but there was no cable. And get this, I'm like I'm a tech guy, and I'm like, oh damn, I got had. I was supposed to buy the cable, and I bought the charger block because I thought it was like an all-in-one, and I forgot that I just had to pull out the USB-C to magnet. So I need another USB-C to magnet cable, which now I don't even know what that's called. USB-C to magnet? I don't know. So now I have to figure out that also. But like, imagine you go on Amazon. How are you gonna figure that out? Like, I'm better off calling Apple. Like, here's my serial number. Give me the cable I need and just send it. Yeah, that's like, exactly. That's where RadioShack will come back.
Exact thing. That's awful.
Yep.
They're just here to trick you because they want your money. $99 is a crazy. Now I'm like, maybe I wouldn't ever pay $99 for a cable. So I think that maybe you were a little schmoozed there.
I was had. I was had. Yep. I still got a 30-day refund policy, Apple.
Heck
I just need the cable. I'll send this guy and get my cable.
As someone who never returns anything, because I don't know why I have fear around returning things. There's something weird. There's a roadblock in the way of me returning anything ever. If I buy something by accident, it's staying with me, or someone else will find use for it because for whatever reason. So They get me with those return policies. I will not give them back anything.
That's terrible.
But anyway, Christopher, this has already been so great. I was going to give you other brands, but I think we spent a perfect amount of time on RadioShack, and I think that was a great idea. So thank you so much for participating in my funny little game. And to start out, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, what you're doing today, and kind of what led you to your professional career now.
So let's see where to start. So my name's Christopher Savage. Started back in 2014, Savage Global Marketing, on February 14th for the love of marketing. It's always kind of our funny shtick that we'll have. Prior to that, in my journey through college at Florida International University and into working for a few major agencies, I really saw a true black box in what marketing is and how it was offered. So essentially in 2010, let's go back like that far, you could sell companies on the idea of, just, hey, you need marketing, I can sell you marketing. And then when you buy the marketing, it's like, what did you buy? So I saw that continue to happen and I didn't like it. So I was on this journey to, work in marketing. I was doing a lot of account management, sales, things like that. Fast forward, I ended up getting a job opportunity at Apple. Ended up declining it because I didn't want to jump ship to California. My family said, don't do it. They lived there. And ended up landing on a job here. So it was my uncle at the time, or still is my uncle. But this was, I want to say, damn, I don't even know how far it goes back now, maybe 15 years or something like that. But I ended up going to work for him. At that time, I was given like the role of just, marketing coordinator and kind of like intern, just let me do what I needed to do. So the business was operating for over 25 years when I came on board. And within 16 months, grew the gross revenue of the company massive. So during that growth phase and seeing kind of like what happens when you change all your signs, and rebrand everything and make stronger messaging, you could see it worked. And then boom, that's where Savage Global Marketing started. So today we've been in business over 11 years now. We service, every sector there is, from small to mid-sized to Fortune 100 companies like Carlyle Group, Coinbase, and, the original creators of GarageBand. So we've had a fun journey. We have a fully remote team now. We used to have multiple offices in our own building. And once we went fully remote, our team spread out across all over the world, from everything in the local states to Spain to Portugal, Michigan, New York, you name it. So it's been a fun journey. And now I would tell you where our company's headed is the AI revolution is obviously coming very quickly. So our team is under the, pretense now that before you do anything or before you move a muscle, what AI tool can you use prior to moving that muscle? And any tools that we have currently on our tech stack that don't integrate some sort of AI piece will be let go. So we're on this big pivot right now of, optimizing the efficiency of all the AI and giving our, teammates superpowers, as we call it.
That is incredible. If for the AI specifically, I was just talking to someone about this the other day. Do you think that it can be very overwhelming to incorporate so many tools at once? Is it something that you're gradually doing to withstand like the learning curve that it comes with like learning these new tools of something that you used to do manually?
Great point. So I think for the last couple of years, there's been like a tech overload where any marketing firm or any business, they just, every tool that you need, they just start buying it, like Calendly. And you don't need the Calendly, you need also the call rail to track it. But then they start getting too many and things get all over the place. So I will not disagree with that. But what we're really doing is kind of trying to see which ones we can refine and connect. So like, for instance, a good example that I would throw out there is Lucky Orange is a like recording / heat mapping tool and things like that. But then outside of that, you have like Google Optimizer, which I forget what our ad team's using now, but we have like an A/B testing tool. And now there's this new tool called Mouseflow. No, I'm not a paid sponsor, but I was looking through their site and I was very impressed because they took all the best items from Lucky Orange, all the best from the A/B tester tool, integrated these two into one tool. But now this one tool has both of them, but with the AI back. So like when you were to look at your homepage, let's just say, instead of with Lucky Orange having to go back and forth through tabs and like what's the most clicked, this one just pops up, shows the picture of the homepage. 43% of the people didn't pass this line. These people are doing this, this message is not converting and this button works really well. And then that right there makes it, streamlined.
Mm-hmm. That's really awesome. Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve, I think, to even find the best of them, like knowing which ones will actually be helpful to you and not overloading yourself with new, like, oh, this seems really cool and interesting, but it's not really helpful for us, or so to speak. Like there's some things that you can optimize, but there's some things that are just, don't fix something that's not broken.
Oh, we did the easiest one that you'll do that with these days is like grammar. When you have, multiple people from all over the world, we have even people in South Florida whose first language is Spanish. So like when you have tools like Grammarly, you had Grammarly, but then we had at one time Grammarly, Writer.ai, WordTune, and then Google Docs had some sort of like integrated, spell checker. So if you can imagine it, we had like 4 spell checkers to just check English spelling. And it's like, what? So then all these wiped out. And now it's like, you can just use ChatGPT, literally click a link, say, hey, spell check this page for me. Boom, done.
I was going to ask which one was the best one, but I guess you resulted to ChatGPT and that one was the best one.
We built an agent, actually. We just built like, it's our website proofer. So now like we can scan, 100 websites or 100 pages at the, just one prompt. And then it tells us, the grammar here needs to be adjusted. Here's the current, here's the fix, here's the current, here's the fix, all the way down.
That's awesome. Have you ever run into any problems with incorporating new tools like this?
Absolutely, all the time. Yeah. Marketing's a wreck. I make the joke, like, it's amazing, StreamYard's working great, or, Google Hangouts works. Like, you never know. These days, technology's all over the place. You pay for, 800 megabytes, you get 30. And then you're like, what's going on? I don't know.
Yeah, it's very funny. I think that it is a very interesting world to be somewhat of a slave to technology because you have to use it every day and you have to integrate it into your work. And it is obviously so unbelievably helpful. But since it's constantly advancing at such a rapid pace, it's something that's very difficult to adjust to when you have to rely on it and it's not working in the way that you expect. Even we have that trouble with StreamYard. It is 99% of the time working perfectly in the way it's supposed to, and then I have one guest that's just like, this just is not working, and I don't know why. I have no reason. I don't know.
Do you have a 2017 MacBook Air?
Yeah, it could be that.
That's why. Like,
exactly.
Come on, like these things are ridiculous.
Exactly. I never know if that's the reason, and I'm not going to call. I can't. Hey, say, what model is your computer that you're working on? Because that seems rude. But I never know.
You never know.
You never know. Well, So something that I really noticed about you, that like looking into your world, is that you are really involved in your community. I always like to ask how someone's background kind of influences them as a marketer. So I'm wondering how your community, how you're involved in your community and how that affects your marketing role.
Wow, no one's asked me that, but I got a good answer for it.
Yes.
So when I was in high school and like the years of volunteer work, I was that student that would go and find a friend that had a school teacher as a parent, and I would have them just fudge numbers and just like get me by. So I always use that as like a pedestal of something that I did wrong. So you can't take back time, right? But you can always like become better. So as I went through college, I was a club promoter. So I was kind of in community, but I still was not doing any philanthropy work, including forgive my fraternity TKE. When I was actually going through my fraternity, they had a lot of these like nonprofit events, stuff like that. I just wasn't for it. But now, fast forward to today, I have a 2.5-year-old son, a beautiful wife, and like I really put a lot of focus on the family. So once I saw really my son growing up, and then her being a second grade teacher and like educating children and my son, I was like, you know what? I think it's time like I give back. So instead of just giving back, with like a finger, I gave the whole arm thing. So at the moment, I sit on McFadder Technical's advisory board for the school. I sit on Florida International University's master program advisory board. I believe I'm the only business owner on that board, and there's individuals from Amazon, Chewy, like some of the biggest companies. So it's very cool. I do not have a master's degree either, but I do have a college degree. So past that, I mean, I sit on my local HOA community as the treasurer. I sit on another philanthropy, like nonprofit thing for the community in Fort Lauderdale. And honestly, in the beginning, it was all this, big mission. And now it's just become a part of me. So it's kind of like full circle. I just do what I can for the community around us. Fort Lauderdale at the moment, I believe in the last 2 years went from like 15th largest GDP to I think 10 or 12 now. So like, if you think about we're a top, 15 city growing out of, I don't know how many damn cities in the US, a lot, but it's very cool, to be in that circle. So the community for me means a lot, especially knowing how much is thriving. And I mean, I could tell you every week there's a board meeting where I'm at some sort of event that gets me in the room with some certain individual. And it's really nice to see that, because today business is difficult. People suck. I always use that as like a truth. And when you're in a community, as they say, like stronger together. So it's nice to be around individuals, and companies that you can rely on or trust or communicate with to, find internal connections or people or employees or whatever. They're all there. You just reach out to an internal network instead of just going fishing in the middle of the rainforest or something, or middle of nowhere.
No, I was definitely going to say, I think that it's probably so much more helpful to meet someone in that authentic way too, rather than in a, via email or whatever it may be. Obviously, like we're all doing that. But I think it's really lovely to be able to make those connections in that way, only because, people are not only more likely to want to speak with you because you're within their community, but they have much more of like a warm introduction. Unless you're a cold person, then I guess that wouldn't help you too much. But
yeah. I think there's an in between warm and hot, or maybe it's like lukewarm.
Yeah.
That's right. If you're a cold person,
too warm sometimes too, I guess, or hot, I guess.
Exactly.
Don't respond well to certain personalities, and the business world is very interesting. So it's really feeling people out for sure. So speaking of community, you help build legacy brands. So what role do you think community trust plays in building brands like that?
Trust is huge. I think that because of AI, right, you have people that are like dubbing stuff or deep fake. So authentic and trust is everything right now, I believe, for businesses, especially legacy. So, with the companies that we have that are 100 years old, things like that, you need to hone in on that. Like we're 100 years in business. We've serviced X amount of brands, backed by thousands of happy customers. And by doing that, it's much more impactful. And the same thing works for us as a business is, it's one thing to be a marketing agency because there's 330,000 of them. But when you can say like we're top 300 on Clutch 3 years in a row out of 331,000, like then it becomes more valuable, and trust is becoming obviously bigger, because when you have 300 plus companies or 300,000, marketing agencies, imagine every sector. And where like the legacy brands will stand out is you'll have this big rush of like new businesses coming in, but those legacy ones that are still standing and have 100 years, all they have to say is just stand on the totem pole and be like, we've been here 100 years, like we're still here. And like that right there is 1,000 times more valuable than the business coming in with like, we got this new technology, we can do this. That's cool, and it may grow after a year, a couple of years, but the idea is when you have legacy brands, you really need to dig into that trust and push it through even social channels. So like some of the biggest brands that we're working with, multi-billion-dollar asset investment firms and things like that, they're building more like thought leadership content. And the idea behind that is what? Trust. Like we're here, here's some of our biggest C-suite individuals talking on camera, full format LinkedIn, like sexy, moody, like great feeling, like, this is who we are. This is what we do, with the emotion and the pride. And it builds trust for brands like that, where, most will never be able to do that because you're just starting out. Like to build that trust is difficult. It takes years. What do they say with business? It's first 2 years, like 80% likely to fail or something. I think 5 years is like 50% likely to fail still. And then 10-year mark is where it's like the 80-20 swaps. And it's like 20% likely to fail. But that's where that trust becomes so much easier to also share when you get to that level. So again, it's just, 100-year business, we're 100 years old. It's hard to beat.
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of value in like still standing after a certain amount of time. What would you recommend is like the best way for a company or a business to show that they are trustworthy outside of maybe just the existence of the company for a certain amount of time?
Showing up on social. I have so many brands, I could care less when someone tells me these days in like a sales process of, hey, Facebook's great and all, but that's not our market. I said, well, have you done like the research? Do you know how many people have Facebook? Like, did you really not notice that it's like 89%, I think, of the planet has Facebook? So when you say that, it's just a dumb statement. And that's where I think that the main idea here is really focusing on putting, that social value out there, or that social awareness. And a lot of companies, the legacy ones, right, they're almost scared of this stuff. Like they feel like it's, weird or different, but think how valuable it is for, a company that's been non-existent on social. And now they're like coming out of the woodwork. All of a sudden you see like, this really cool interviews and the captions and, customer interactions and testimonials and like stories and all these other things. Once that comes up, the trust, becomes much easier to grow, even for the new businesses. Because like if someone started some random, I'll just use a restaurant. Someone starts a restaurant. How do you build, trust in the community very quickly? Engage with a few local influencers, give them free meals, have them come in, build some awareness, ask them for content, make some content from that, build your own content, and show up. And hey, we our chef such and such today, look at what he's cooking. He's got this new thing. We're making this recipe. As much as people think like, that doesn't do anything, it does. Because at the end of the day, you're looking at these videos, and even the best policy these days with social, people are always worried about the likes. You can sit on a video and not click a button, and it will never know you engaged with it. But in reality, like algorithm might know you did, but it won't show as an ad conversion or a click or anything. So then maybe you think, oh, my content sucks. When in reality, people see it. Like you'll get a call the next day and, hey, I saw that video. And you're thinking like, why didn't they like it? Well, I don't know, but obviously, it's building trust and people are contacting you.
Yeah, no, I think that it's very important, and I think that a lot of people don't acknowledge it as much. They will write off a social media platform because they're like, well, that's not where the people that we're looking for are, or I don't want to try this because it's too scary, or I don't want to put us out on the internet for us to be ridiculed or whatever, like whatever the worries are. I think that it is valuable for any kind of business because people just want to kind of get to know you. People like having a face behind the business, even if it's like, if it's a restaurant, then people probably want to get to know your food a little more than you. But they do want to understand, sometimes they like the story behind the restaurant, like why you created it. A lot of people are attracted to just a story in general, and that's so big in marketing of, you know, creating a story behind someone or a business or whatever it may be. And I completely agree that people should be more quick to be involved in social media platforms and showcase their work rather than be more afraid of it. Because I mean, especially legacy brands can mess up, and honestly not much will happen to them anyway. So I think that they have like the lease on the line. I mean, obviously a small business, if they really mess up, that is, they should think about their choices on social media a little more. But legacy brands have like the ability to experiment a little bit more, I think, too, with it, in ways that are more absurd or maybe out of the box. And I think that's something that's really cool that they should utilize.
That's a great point. The like Liquid Death and a lot of those brands, like our marketing team now, a lot of the items they use is the keyword like weird. Like we got to get weird with the content. And that is something that most newer brands would never do. Like you wouldn't start a accounting firm and like start doing TikTok reels. Like it would never happen. But if you did, ballsy, might blow up. Like you don't know, it might blow up. Honestly, it could go one way or the other way. But for the legacy ones, like there's a law firm out there that's super OG. They've probably been, I don't know, their like grandfathers made it, and then the father, and then the son's now there, and their Instagram is just ridiculously funny because like it's, if you don't know law, they'll come in and they'll just be like, hey, what's a funny way that you would tell a girl off in like legalese? And then like the guy thinks for a second and come back and he's like, well, based on the pretext of the situation, I really think that you and me are probably not going to be a good fit, so we should depart. And I'm like, wow, like no one would do that as a law firm. Like that's wild. But when you do it and you're that old, like they look like they just reinvigorated it with, you know, jet fuel. Like they came from out of nowhere and then just blew the doors off. And the same thing happened with Liquid Death. It was a can of water in an aluminum can. And the last commercial, if you go watch it, literally they did murdering clowns. And if you watch it, it's a woman holding a lawnmower to her chest and running and crashing into zombies. And it's spewing like rainbow blood. And it literally ends with, you know, like sleep better, murder zombies or murder clowns. And the ad ends and you're like,
what the heck?
Watch. Yeah, like I don't understand what just happened. Mm-hmm. But then you know that like they got your attention.
Oh, I think that their marketing, Liquid Death comes up actually, I don't know if a lot, but enough that it happens more than once on the podcast. And I think it's just because it stands out as one of the most genius marketing moves of all time for specifically just branding. Like I think no one is, obviously I'm sure death related marketing, I guess, would deter a certain type of person, maybe a very religious person or something like that. I don't know.
Demonic cans of soda.
Yeah.
Or something, yeah.
The whole I remember the whole craze like maybe 10 years ago about how Monster is satanic, like
I remember that.
I do remember that. So maybe that type of person would be deterred by Liquid Death, but it's just something that's so admirable and gets your attention regardless of who you are. Like even with their merch, like they have a flask that's shaped like a coffin, and I think that's hysterical.
I didn't see that.
It's amazing. It's awesome too. I don't know if they're still selling it, but it's awesome. I want to buy it just to have it. I don't even drink really, but I want that.
Oh my God, that's so cool. You're right. They have them on eBay. Like people are having them on eBay. That's crazy.
It was probably a limited time or something like that, and that's why they're
reselling. Murder your thirst, and they just have the thing. That's great. That's so
and
amazing.
then even when you have a fun brand like that, I think you can also be more risky with your advertising, like what you're talking about, the commercial. I think that's so fun. And for Liquid Death being a new brand and doing that at the time, I think that's incredible. And I love like risky moves like that. Of course it's scary because you don't know whether it's going to fail or not. But I think that, you know, trying those risks, if the worst comes to worst, if it doesn't work and that's your whole thing, just rebrand. Who's going to know?
Yeah, I agree. Well, with that, they, what is it? The no press is bad press mentality. Mm-hmm. Like for them, they could have just thought about that because when they started, the difference was I think they had like an internal marketing team, and they had the funds to like allocate for it in the beginning. And that's where they were ballsy enough to, instead of like invest in, CFOs and all these other things, they were just like, screw it, like let's just make noise. And like they just were sitting in this office, probably like South Park, and just creating, like, oh, how do we go crazy with death, but not too crazy? And they just start popping out ideas, and you're like, yo, these guys look like the next Harmon Brothers, or the ideas are magical.
Yeah, and I think that I would love to see more risks in marketing, because that is what stands out to people. I think that, there are people that are constantly doing risk in marketing, because marketing is a gamble and it's always risk almost, unless you're doing something that's really safe. And if you're doing that, then you're probably not learning much from what you're doing. But I would love to see risks that are something that actually stands out to me, because of course we're always doing risks, but something like Liquid Death, something like, I'm trying to think of one that failed, like Gap changed their logo. Like, I don't remember when it was, but they changed their logo and people were mad about it. And I was like, I love that. I love that people were mad about it.
Yeah.
They're reminded about Gap. I never think about Gap.
Walmart's getting trolled with their logo. If you haven't seen it, they're darkening the blue. So if you Google like the change of time of Walmart logo, there's literally a light blue, then like a shade of darker blue, and then like it got a little darker, and now like it's bold yellow blue. And people are like, okay, seriously, is this a joke? Like they don't understand what's happening, but it's just like color contrast is all that they're doing to the Walmart logo.
That's so funny. I'm also looking at they used to have like a very old-timey Western logo in like the 60s to the 80s, and I really like it, and I think they should just go back to that. That's
the OG one. Yeah, I know. The old, some brands old school were better, I think, too.
I love that.
I agree.
Wait, that's something that's hysterical. I also like Duolingo of the world. That's something that I'm looking for. They are the craziest with marketing. That is wonderful.
Their Barbie the Barbie rollout was one of their most sought out like things. It was all over Adweek. Yeah, that Barbie rollout was insane.
Genius. I love that, and I love to see more of that. Okay, last question, because I think we spent a lot of time on that, but I thought that was really fun. I want to ask you, because I don't get to talk to someone who's so heavily involved in the community as you are, so I think this is really cool. You're part of both business and civic communities. Do you have something that you think one side could learn from each other that you think stands out to you?
So in like the HOA world, it's a different element, right? Like right now, if you see, there's a lot of bashing for HOA because this like the high rises with the HOAs like going defunct. So for me, it was almost getting on it to ensure like stability in our community, right? But being the treasurer, like I manage money markets, I manage finances, I help write up violations. I have contacts with city officials. I have contacts with city permitting, contacts for landscaping, for wood work, whatever it is, all these factors. So yes, absolutely. They both have their own value. I think the community driven stuff is that it's community. So like, you're probably not going to get a client from like being on an HOA board or like a city board or something like that. But when you're on, the FIU board, they also respect the idea that you're doing civic, board stuff on the other side, because both of them look at you as like, oh, look, they're doing community stuff. That's really cool. And it's nice to see that because again, like the natural, I guess, attrition for me was when I got on the HOA for the school, the board in my community just came naturally because I said exactly like, if I'm going to live here, I want to know where my money is going. And there was only like 4 board members. So I went to a meeting and I told them like I sit on a couple boards and I'd love to be a part of the community. And it literally said like, oh, hey, can we get a motion to approve this new member? Like, yes. And then they said, aye. And then boom, like I'm on the board. So like at that point, what ends up happening in the HOA one is there's like a table and then there's the people here and then there's the chairs going back. I was sitting in the chair, and then once they appoint you, I just walk around the table, sit down, and like that was it. And then from there forward, I've been on our local community for 2 years. I'm helping now with a website revamp. I know most of the documentation that you need for a community, how to manage a community, what you need to permit to get things built. Like super weird information. You probably might say like, "Oh, I don't need that tomorrow." You don't, but it's really awesome because it provides a totally different perspective into what a board is, because when you're doing it for like FIU or McFadder, We're more on like curriculum review, understanding like what students are learning, like the programs that the students are going through, and then providing direction on that, right? But then different to that, then like the Chamber of Commerce in Fort Lauderdale, I sit as the president of the marketing board, and what we do on that side is driving the directive and the ideas behind how to market the chamber. So if you see, every single one has a totally different role, you know, deliverables, research, everything.
I think that's really, really interesting to be able to be involved in all of those worlds and be able to kind of pull from each. I think it's also a testament to how people can see that you're involved in your community and want to be involved with you. And I think that is like a really good lesson, because I do think that everyone should be involved in their community in a certain level. I think that if you're living somewhere, it's nice to know what's happening, like what is behind all the things that you see posters for, or what moves are happening in the HOA. I know my parents have gotten a lot more involved. They've never been a part of an HOA before moving to North Carolina, and now they want to know everything that's going on, because there's constant things that are happening that they don't know why. And I think that it is wonderful that you've not only been able to be a part of that, but also learn from it, especially from a marketing perspective.
Appreciate that. Absolutely. No, it's been a fun journey with that. And I'm sure your parents are probably getting involved, because the second you live in the community and something goes weird, then you go to that meeting. And then if you're like a leader role or type A, you're like, oh, screw this, I'm not on the board. And then after that, like, you never look back and you feel good, because like now you're aware. And to your point, it's funny. We actually work with the Plantation Fire Department, which I didn't know living in the city. We're the second largest volunteer fire department. So I had no clue, Shannon, our entire fire department, when every day I hear its sirens, they're unpaid. I had no clue. We did a whole passion project. It's all over our YouTube. We have 3 video series for them, and it's magical what we created. But like, when you see these videos, it's like, that's another part of the community that no one knows. But like, if something happens, you know, I know firefighters, I know paramedics, I know all the factors that happen in our community.
Yeah, my mom was an EMT, and I learned a lot about the volunteer firefighters. I did not know that recently my apartment fire alarm went off in the middle of the night. And I walk past our fire department all the time. They're like 6 blocks away from me. Like, they're walking distance from me. And it took whatever amount of time for them to get here, but I was like, they're down the street. Where?
Wait, and these aren't volunteer ones? These are paid ones?
They're not paid, so they're at their homes, and they have to get to the fire department, and then they have to, because they don't, when they're not big enough, they don't have people to stay overnightly, so they have to live in the certain zip code, like in the radius of, in order to get there fast enough to react to some kind of alarm such as that. And I had no idea. I was like, they're down the street, they're just sitting there.
Like, doing that, yeah. But see, I didn't even process that. That's such a great point. And until you know that about your community, you really think that like they suck. Like, wow, my fire department sucks. When in reality, like, there's not enough people. And like you said, like at ours, you're right. I think we have like 200 people. So with ours, there are like 2 that are always, I believe, active there. And then EMTs don't have any, I think, non-paid. Like if it's paramedic, are all paid. Like they're there actively. So then at least ours always has someone. But if there's a big fire, you're correct. Like they wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, they drive to the fire station, and boom, and they suit up and go. And like, damn, kudos. Like, what a nice person. And at the end of the day, you're thinking their service sucks.
This guy came in like shorts and a t-shirt. Like, I was like, this guy woke up and
here.
Fire. And I appreciate them that much more, knowing that that's what they're doing. And it's also nice to know about your community, to be able to appreciate it better as well, because you might not understand all the intricacies of the work that goes into doing something until you're involved in it yourself.
100% agree with that.
Well, I think this was an amazingly wholesome point to end on, because we are over time. But I really appreciate talking to you today, not only because you are so heavily involved in your community, which I think is something that's so amazing. I don't get to talk to people that are doing that kind of work and are involved in it as much as you are. So it is really, thank you for giving me that insight as well. And thank you for all your marketing knowledge.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It was a wonderful chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening and or watching. I hope that you learned as much from this as I got to, and I hope that you check out other episodes to get to learn like I get to every time. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend and, of course, subscribe.